Okay, so I have my preferences and my personal favorite varnishes, but obviously what works for me might not work for everybody, but I just want to show you a few of the different ones. So there are a few different types of varnishes. There are brush on, and then there are also spray varnishes. So for me personally, when I'm doing smaller items like rocks or tea light candle holders, anything smaller, I typically will like to use a brush on varnish. I also live in Utah and we have pretty rough, cold winters. So in the winter time, I lean more towards brush on varnishes because I can do those indoor, whereas the spray ones need to be done outside. So in the summer, I use the spray on varnish outside a lot more than in the winter. So just another thing to keep in mind. With the brush on varnishes, these are some of my favorite. We have the Deco Art Americana Duraclear. This comes in all different finishes, so matte, satin. They do have a gloss. So these are really great. And then Liquitex it's really just like more of an expensive, a little bit higher end brand, but they also have satin varnish, matte varnish, brush-ons. And then Deco Art, I used to use this a lot. Deco Art Triple Thick. This is just really, really thick. So it's hard to use on large surfaces because it's so thick and you have to brush it on quickly or you'll get brush marks. So I really like to use this on smaller surfaces, but I do not use this on larger surfaces. And these ones, these brush-ons, are all way thinner than the triple thick, so it goes on thin and smooth. So yeah, thicker varnishes are just a little bit harder to work on. I prefer them for smaller items, but not for larger items. And then another thing to consider is just the size of whatever you're painting. So I know we're starting out for beginners, we're doing small items, but I paint a lot of larger mandalas. So for large mandalas, I much prefer a spray varnish. Again, because with the brush on ones, you have to really work quickly with them to like spread it out and make sure everything's evenly covered, and it can start to dry like immediately, so you have to work really, really quick. And it's just a lot harder to use the brush on varnish on larger items. So for larger pieces, I just prefer to use spray varnish. I really like this Krylon, but Deco Art also makes spray on. There's a lot of other brands that make spray varnishes. This is just the one that I prefer. Comes in all different finishes. So they make a triple thick spray, crystal clears, kind of like a, I guess more of like a satin. It's not quite matte, not super glossy, so it's kind of in the middle. This is one of my favorite ones. And then a matte finish. So it just depends the type of finish that you want and then the method that you want to apply it. For smaller items like rocks specifically, I like a very glossy, so I will use the triple thick spray or triple thick brush on, and that will give you a really, really glossy finish. But for my larger mandalas, I prefer a satin or matte finish. So again, it's just all personal preference. Your craft store will carry a wide variety of spray varnishes and brush on varnishes. So especially as a beginner, I recommend maybe doing some smaller items like smaller rocks and then testing out different varnishes on those smaller pieces to see which ones that you prefer. If you are interested in learning more from me, I teach weekly live classes over on Patreon. Once you become a Patreon subscriber, you will have instant access to a library of all of my past classes. I also share other things on Patreon, such as my color palette recipes and exclusive discount codes to your favorite dotting suppliers. There is also a 24-hour group chat where you can interact with myself and the community and share photos of your work and ask questions. And you will also have access to Patreon Messenger, where you can message me at any time. All right, I hope to see you guys over on Patreon. Details are located in the description of this video.